I want to show you what I've used as far as my tools and chemicals to do this project. And what we're going to be using is we're going to be using this epoxy resin. This is from Total Boat. We're also using the slow hardener. Now they make two different types of hardeners. They make a slow and they make a fast. In retrospect, I probably should have got the fast hardener just because I'm here in Illinois. I got a couple of heaters running here in the garage so that my garage temp's 75, but unfortunately it's like 20 degrees out right now. So this stuff you have to have, if you read all the instructions, the slow hardener, it needs to be no cooler than 60 degrees to use this stuff. The fast hardener, you can be at 40 degrees. So depending on where you live. So this is our epoxy resin. I also had to use some acetone. Acetone's for cleaning everything before applying the epoxy resin. These are just what they call like a chip brush. These are like $1, if that, paint brushes. Just cheap because you're going to use them and throw them away. This is a fiberglass bubble roller, and I'm going to have links for all this. This is to help roll the fiberglass, get air pockets out. These are some metal snips. These are actually what you use to cut the fiberglass, believe it or not. Utility knife, some popsicle sticks for smearing, some masking tape. You're gonna want to buy a bunch of these little mixing jugs. They're, you know, just around a little over $1. Just get a bunch of them because you kind of use them and you have to throw them away. I just use this Bondo. This is fiberglass cloth. Fiberglass cloth. You'll end up needing 3 of these to do this, pretty much in 1.5 for each section. Definitely gonna want some gloves. And then this is just wax paper. The wax paper is used underside to cover up where the latches are gonna go. The wax paper just prevents the epoxy from really sticking to it. I also use it on my clamps. Come down underneath here, and you can see I just got a bunch of these clamps that we clamp all the way around as everything is curing, and some straps to tie it down, some rags, some paint stirrers, but that is it. This is all I use. Oh, last but not least, these are just these are from Bondo too. So you can get these. You can get this. You can probably get this stuff at Walmart, Home Depot, Lowe's, whatever. But the only thing you're gonna want to order is this roller, because they're probably not gonna have that. And of course, your resin and hardener. Everything else I sourced locally, and that's here in central Illinois, where we don't have a marine scene really, like Florida or on the coast or something like that. So I just wanted to share that. You're also gonna want some type of temperature gauge so you know what time about the temperature is, and then just a little notepad pen for keeping track of when you do your pours. And I believe that's it. So just wanted to share with you the tools that are going to be used in part 3, and that is it. I want to talk to you about this resin kit that I got from Total Boat. Now, the reason I got this kit was for simplicity. So the kit comes with your resin, your hardener, comes with these mixing pumps right here. It came with some containers, some stirrers, and it also came with my fiberglass roller as well. This is the only thing I had to source that I could not find locally. So the main advantage of using this kit are these self-metered pumps that it comes with. So to mix these parts together, it's a 5-to-1. 5 this, 1 that. These pumps are metered in a way so when I push this down, it dispenses the right amount of fluid. So 1 full pump to this to 1 full pump of that is the exact amount, the ratio of resin to hardener that I need. Makes it so easy, so easy. And there are other systems companies out there that do it. I just went with Total Boat. I called them up, asked them some questions with their customer support, and they were very, very helpful. So that's why I went with them. I believe the West Marine also offers this same kit. I just think it's a lot more expensive. And for what I am doing with mine, I just don't think that I needed to get to the high end. You know, I'm not making a surfboard or anything like that. So that is why I chose this resin kit. It was all in one. It was around $100, and I got a gallon because I figured with the amount that I needed, this is what I was gonna need. And that's it. So just simplicity. You don't have to worry about screwing up the ratio between resin and hardener. That's it, the end. So that's why I chose this kit. So here I am, I'm taking some acetone and I'm just wiping everything down. This is just to get the oil residue off. Pretty much evaporates immediately. Now I'm just mixing my resin. 1 pump of resin equals 1 pump of hardener. So everything's ratioed out properly. All right, mix, mix, mix. You wanna mix this stuff for at least 1 to 2 minutes. I would just sit there and mix it for 2 minutes. That is your best possible thing that you can do. That'll keep everything mixed up. Alrighty, so now we're pouring everything out, wetting everything down. Just gonna use my little Bondo squeegee there to smear everything. And as you can see, the wood's turning colors. You can see it starting to get dark. And that squeegee works perfect for this. Works absolutely perfect. And here's where I forgot to put on my gloves. And then I grab my paintbrush. These are where this is where the hinges are. I'm just using my paintbrush to make sure to get it in there. And now I'm doing the sides. Paintbrush works really good for this. Just gonna go all the way around with the brush. And then I'm just grabbing the excess drips from the bottom, and you'll see that here in just a second. Alrighty, so now after everything's dried, I'm gonna take some acetone and I'm gonna clean the inside of the tray here, and I'm just gonna blow it off. Here I'm taking some wax paper and just gonna be covering up the holes here. I'm trying to keep the resin, because the resin's gonna wanna drip out through here. And so I'm doing this to help keep the resin from getting all over the top side of this. Even though it's gonna be covered up with Seadek or Hydroturf, whatever you wanna call it, I'm still just trying to control it. And honestly, you know what? If I had to redo this, what I would probably do is I would probably put the tape down first and then lay the wax paper on the inside. I did get a little overspill, and you're gonna see that, but it's nothing much. Again, it's gonna be covered up. Just trying to control it. And the wax, you know, and the reason I'm using the wax paper is because the epoxy will peel off of it, whereas the masking tape will be it just be kind of glued to it. Same thing for the hinge holes right there, just trying to prevent the epoxy from running out. And yeah. Alrighty, so here I got my fiberglass cloth down, and I'm getting ready to cut it to size, to shape. Now, cutting this fiberglass cloth, I tried scissors and this and that, and honestly, I went to my, you'll see here at the end, I end up using some metal snips. They work the best. I just would go to Harbor Freight, Menards, whatever, Home Depot, and just get you a set of metal snips. Those are some metal snips. They're just kind of worn out, and there you go. And so just that cut perfectly. I just grabbed, you can get them with different angles on them, and left and rights and center, and I ended up grabbing my yellow ones, which were a better cut. Just makes it easier. And so now I'm cutting everything, getting this thing cut to size before we start. And I'm just using those clamps to kind of hold everything. And again, this is the just the second sheet that I needed. And save the extra for later. And again, this fiberglass is being used. This is what's gonna help glue the two pieces together. And now I'm just mixing up my resin again. 1 pump of resin, 1 pump of hardener. Ratios are mixed properly. So now I'm applying the second coat. I've let it dry for about 3 hours. And so it's just a little tacky, and that's what you want to be. And so now I'm smearing on this side and getting it wet. Getting everything covered up. Then I'm brushing the sides again as well. Making sure I got everything coated to help water seal this piece of wood. And now I'm wetting out the tray. So I'm getting the tray completely wet and doing this in anticipation of putting down that fiberglass cloth. So if you get the tray wet first, it makes it just quite a bit easier, in my opinion. And I'm just using that Bondo squeegee there to move all that resin around and get it everywhere. Just making sure I'm getting everything wet. Okay, now here comes the fun part, laying the cloth down. You kind of want to get this somewhat on the, not on the money, but once it sits on there, you can't really tug on it because it kind of pulls the cloth funny. And that's another reason why I have the excess on the ends, and that just gives me a little bit of wiggle room. And so I'm just taking my time. And getting the second piece on there. And there we go. And now I'm going to use that fiberglass. I call it a fiberglass roller. I'm sure it's got a proper name. And so now I'm just trying to get everything smoothed out, getting the air bubbles out, and getting this fiberglass just to lay flat and smooth. All right, now I'm gonna mix up another batch. And then mix for a minute or two. Definitely have a clock out there. Will help you with all this. All right, now we're gonna pour this down, and then this is what we're gonna use to get everything soaked and get the fiberglass completely covered in epoxy and all the air bubbles out. And again, because I'm not a fiberglass expert, this just took me a little while. And now I'm getting my roller out. And as you can see, all the fiberglass pretty much is wet. All the air bubbles are out for the most part, except for that little section up top, which I'll be working at. And then I had to make a little bit more just to get those areas. And there we go. She's just about ready to rock and roll here. All right, now we're gonna take our wood core and carefully place it on there. You don't wanna pull on the fiberglass. Now I'm just trying to get everything lined up. And this is when I should have had a couple pairs of gloves on so I could have taken those off. And now I'm transferring this back over to my table. And you should, probably to have a couple of these tables is probably best. And I'm just coming over here and grabbing one of my picks. The reason I'm doing that is just for like where this excess is, just so I can pick this up and get it out where the extra cloth is. Now I'm just gonna go around and I'm gonna start clamping this down. And we'll fast forward here a little bit and I'll show you exactly what it looked like once it was all clamped down and secure. Okay, everybody, this is my final setup. I want to show you guys how I did my clamps because you're gonna want to make sure you have something prepared. Around the perimeter, I just use the combination of the squeeze clamps and these hand clamps. If you have, these would honestly be preferred. This really gets them tight. And then I just took some spare boards that I had, and then I just ran some of my pull straps around it. And once I got everything tight, I jammed these shims in. I mean, you could use a screwdriver, a flat blade screwdriver, whatever you can do just to kind of really get that tight. And then that's going to sandwich it down. So I wanted to show you my end result here of how I sandwiched this together. I couldn't lay it flat on the floor, well, for two reasons. Number one, I guess I could have, I don't know, I just didn't lay it flat. So I had to raise it up just to make the clearance for the clamps. But that's it, the end result. And I let this thing set up in my house overnight just because it's cold. It's cold out and no fumes or nothing. This thing, the epoxy resin puts off no odor at all. So I just had it down here. So that's it. Just wanted to show you here at the end how I ended up clamping this down, and this worked awesome. Nice even pressure all the way out, and not worried. So we just pulled everything out. Everything is glued. Everything's set up. I think what we're gonna do first is we're gonna come here and we're gonna pull the tape off. Okay, so we're just pulling the tape off, just kind of inspecting everything. And as you can see here, we had a little bit of a bleed from that resin, and that one sealed up pretty good. There's a little bit of extra on the non-skid, but it's gonna be covered up anyway by Hydroturf. So now I'm just taking my razor blade and I'm just taking all the extra fiberglass mat and I'm just cutting it away. And a razor blade works perfect for this. And so we'll just go around and get this cleaned up and get it ready. Okay, so now we're going to take some fiberglass cloth again. We're going to go ahead and cut this out. It's going to use 2 pieces. And again, we're doing the exact same thing we've already done previous when we put the wood core in on the fiberglass tray. So just going to go around with my metal snips. Trim it all up. Alrighty, I'm taking some acetone. I'm gonna wipe down this piece of wood on the back side here and get it ready. Blow everything off. Mix up our epoxy resin. Mix, mix, mix. And now I'm going to start off by pouring into these voids. In this step, it is not crucial to get it filled all the way up, but to try and get it filled up pretty good. Because we're going to be coming back later and making what we call peanut butter. And it's like a paste and filling it in. But I'm just pouring it into the sides, and then I'm also getting the top wet. And again, this is going to be the first coat of water sealing on this wood. One thing to point out, while you are doing this, you should have this board pretty level. That way, as you pour the epoxy, it lays flat. And just spreading it, spreading it, spreading it, spreading it. Now I'm using the brush just to grab the excess, any big puddles of it, pushing the epoxy down into the crack, into the void. Now I've gone ahead and let it tack up, which is 3 hours. Taking acetone, I'm wiping the bottom tray fiberglass piece down, getting it prepared. Mixing up our epoxy resin again. And now I'm going back, and this is going to be my wet coat. This is what I'm going to use to get everything wet again for the fiberglass mat. So I'm gonna get everything wet. Now I'm gonna lay my fiberglass mat down. And again, just like we did earlier, I'm going to use my roller, get all the air pockets out and get that mat so it's completely translucent, transparent, whatever word it might be. As you can see the epoxy soaking into that mat because it almost turns clear and you can see the wood. And that's what we're trying to do. And I'm using the squeegee to kind of tuck the fiberglass mat into the cracks between the wood and the tray. Now you can see that piece is fully soaked. And now we gotta do the same thing for this. We gotta get this piece wet with epoxy. I'm just doing it on my concrete floor. whatever epoxy I spilled on the floor, I can wipe up with acetone, so no big deal. And we're just gonna get this nice and wet. And now, the stressful part, I guess, we're lining this up, getting ready to drop. And you wanna get it pretty close, because shifting it, you don't wanna yank on the fiberglass mat. And I almost got it right on first try there. So just picking it up, moving it around, seeing where it sits. And there you go. That's it, baby. The thickness is there, everything is good. I'm gonna go around, I'm gonna get my clamps on here. And I'm gonna clamp it down the same way I did earlier when we put the wood core in. And I got a little bit of epoxy left over. I'm just gonna brush this over those holes. You know, those holes are gonna get cut out with a hole saw bit. So I probably didn't have to do that. I was just trying to get everything wetted and just to make sure that everything was gonna glue itself or laminate itself together. And then on this part here, I did have a little bit of spillage, so I'm going around with a rag soaked in acetone and I'm just wiping it off the tray. And then just get my straps on. And there we go, guys. That's it. That is it. So now I'm gonna let this thing cure for another 24 hours, 48 hours. And that's it. That's the end of part 3.